Money isn't just about numbers. It's about breaking free from timelines, toxic narratives, and taking control of your future. But what does it really take for women to invest with confidence and build a life aligned with their true values? Welcome to PhD with Women on IT Hack the Future. My name is Jamil Navarrosa, and today's PhD Positivity Hack delivered will be by our guest, Brooke Dean. So before we begin, we have an important announcement about our host, Pia Young. And here's Patrick with that message for our viewers.
We begin with the sad news. Our co-founder, my muse, my awesome wife, Beata, remains missing. I appreciate that you all want to enjoy the wonders of this fabulous live stream, but, and I apologize for the personal nature of this note, I must interrupt with a personal tone, beyond the business of bourses, beyond the world of women on it, but also contiguous to both our market structure and indeed the world of women on it, where Beata has worked so hard for women entrepreneurs, women in IT, women directors et al. This is truly the hardest message I've ever had to deliver, so please bear with me. My brilliant wife, business partner, inspiration and muse, Beata Young, went missing a month ago on June the 16th while swimming off the coast from our Caribbean idyll. Police investigations are ongoing. Please may I ask you to respect this investigation and not indulge in public speculation. I will endeavour to respond to all DMs as best I can, but as I can appreciate, these are difficult times. To all those of you who wish to pray or send a message to your God, regardless of faith, or just to the universe send some energy, please do so. We all hope for a miraculous return of an incredible woman. All our offices remain open, including Women on It, Exchange Invest, and everything else. I would like to add a huge word of thanks to our amazing team who have continued to work diligently. We continue to publish Exchange Invest. Our social media clients are fully covered, and most importantly of all, we intend that Beata's work through Women on It will continue as it does to this day. Our team intends to continue Beata's work as a beacon of light and inspiration for women in tech, in boards, and female entrepreneurs across the world.
To our Beata Young, who truly is an unwavering source of inspiration, a passionate advocate for inclusion, and a beacon of positivity for so many, Positivity Hack delivered will spread and carry on with me stepping in as your new host, with hope, love, and solidarity. So let's go to our topic for today is drama-free finances. Episode 189 starts here. Let me remind you, this is a grassroots community that focuses on women on IT, an inclusive forum for women in technology, startups, and female leaders who are supported by men as well. And I bring heart to that hustle because empathy is my module, and empathy is critical to drama-free finances. A few mentions for our tech world. Huge congratulations to Carly Claus and the entire Code with Glossy community on ringing the opening bell at the New York Stock Exchange. Your dedication to making coding accessible and inspiring the next generation of builders and founders is truly transformative. Here's to the next decade of inclusion, innovation, fearless leadership, and mentoring the changemakers who will shape the future. Join our former Positivity Hack delivered guest Elaine Montilla, as she will be speaking at the Out in Tech Leadership Institute this September in New York City. This is more than just an invitation, it's a powerful platform for representation, bold ideas, and building a thriving LGBTQ plus tech community. We are so proud of it. Now let's go back to our topic, drama-free finances. Join us for our Positivity Hack delivered with Brooke Dean, a seasoned financial advisor with years of experience empowering high net worth women and their families, a certified financial planner, true and estate practitioner, and mentor to female advisors. Brooke helps women step out of the dark when it comes to their finances. From teaching investing 101 to adults at Chinook College to guiding clients through wealth building with clarity, Brooke is on a mission to show women they don't have to settle for less. Brooke Dean, thank you very much for joining us. Where in the world you are today?
Hi, Jamil. I'm so glad to be here. I just want to say quickly that I am sending out prayers to Beata. I just wanted to put that in because it is really important that we acknowledge that, as she's the one who, helped bring all of this together. I'm streaming from Calgary, Alberta, so Western Canada, and I'm really excited to be here with you today.
Wow. So, drama-free finances sounds like a breath of fresh air for many. Brooke, what does that phrase truly mean to you, and why do you believe it's such a vital concept for women today?
Yeah, I'm getting asked this question, drama-free finances, kind of where did that come from? Originally, when I was in my teenagers, I was really into acting and I loved drama in the sense of like making up drama, but I didn't want drama in my own life, especially when it comes to finances. So I was like, okay, how can we pair these two things together and look at a way of drama-free finances? How can we make this more interesting than typical financial advice can be? The societal norms of how finance is delivered, and look at other ways we can bring this to women. And that's really what I want to discover and help women do, is feel more confident about their finances and start taking charge in regards to how their brain actually works when it comes to finances, and not just doing what we're told we should be doing.
Your personal journey, including navigating tough experiences, is incredibly relatable and inspiring. How have those moments shaped your unique perspective on finances and fueled your mission to help other women step out of the financial dark?
I think the biggest thing that when I look at why am I in this specifically and why towards women and how come finance, I look at back to my late mother, who grew up with a dad who was very much, women don't go to school, especially to get degrees where it's male dominated. She actually wanted to be an engineer. And he said, no, you can't be an engineer. You're not a man. So she grew up, when I was growing up, she was telling me, okay, how can you actually focus on yourself, and how can you build it up so you're independent and you never have to rely on somebody else? And that always stuck with me, and building up my own finances so I never was in a point where I couldn't take care of myself. That's really what built this up. And I want other women to feel that same way. I want women to never have to depend on somebody else if possible, because that confidence you get when you are financially independent is huge.
Our money can be a powerful tool, not just for security, but for building the life we truly desire. You talk about aligning finances with true values. What's the first step someone can take to identify their core values when it comes to money?
Yeah, I think when you look at core values, you have to look at internally what's really important to you. Why are you here on this earth? And that can be a spiritual thing or not a spiritual thing, but really just why are you here, and what can you do to either help other people, influence other people? And by looking at that, looking at the bigger picture and also looking inside, how can building your finances help you by looking at those core values? So I think even sometimes I've told people, ask your close family or your friends, if they were to say, what are your top 3 most important, like, are you kind? Are you caring? Those types of things. It gives you an idea of what's actually really important to you and what kind of person you are. And then from that, you can actually start on that journey to really see, okay, what does that look like in my life? And how can I, look at these core values and build that out?
Research suggests women often underestimate their financial knowledge, leading to self-limiting beliefs. You emphasize breaking free from toxic narratives around money. Can you share a common limiting belief you hear from women and how they can begin to challenge it?
Yeah, I think a big thing with typical financial advice or even education when it comes to finance is it tends to talk at you, not with you. And it assumes we're focused on performance rather than our purpose. And you want to look for financial advice that meets you where you are and takes your whole life into account. And I've heard that from other women where they say, I went into a meeting and all they did was ask, what investments do I want? And that's such a small part of your whole financial picture. And that's what I say, rather than being compliant, be confident when you're talking about your financial advice. And you should feel like you're part of that conversation rather than just being talked to.
Um, could you also elaborate on what you mean also by breaking from timelines in financial planning? And why? Mhm.
Yeah, breaking from timelines. I think the big thing is, as women especially, we don't necessarily have the same timeline as men when it comes to working. If we're taking time off to, of course, have children, or we're taking time off to be a caregiver to elderly parent, these things don't actually come into the picture when typical financial advice is, okay, in this certain amount of years, you should have this much money built up. The problem with that is, well, the years women have taken off or had to take a break from work or couldn't, save on what if they're on maternity leave or whatever it is, that takes away from what women are trying to do. And that's not really fair not to look at all these other parts of it. So as women, we need to step back and go, okay, that's fine if the typical finance says, okay, I need to have this much by a certain year or time. But instead, okay, what does my timeline look like? We've heard the comparison thing. Comparison steals joy. It's the thief of joy. Finance does that too. You look at all the other people who have, I don't know, they're driving really nice cars, or they look like they really have their life together. They're wealthy. But honestly, I see, I look at people's bank accounts and I look at their investment accounts, and a lot of these people who seem like they have all this money and wealth, they're actually the ones that are in the most debt. And the women and clients I have, men as well, the ones who have quite a bit of wealth, you would have no idea that they have wealth because they don't feel the need to, flaunt it or anything like that. So yeah, like we said, with the timeline, it's about focusing on yourself and your story and working, one day at a time by little incremental ways of investing in your future rather than, okay, what's everybody else doing?
For someone who wants to start investing but feels overwhelmed, what's the very first, most accessible step you would recommend?
I would say just pick one thing. So let it be, find a good financial book that starts with the foundation of finances, or, there's lots of YouTube videos. Make sure, though, I want to say a word of caution, try to avoid finfluencers, so financial influencers, because unfortunately there are a lot of those on social media, and they tell you to invest in certain things that might not actually be what you want to be investing in. So if you can find YouTube videos or Instagram videos, things like that, where there's people with actual credentials and you can trust what they're saying, that can kind of build up your knowledge and just give you that bit of confidence, and then you can keep going. And another option too is maybe just book one appointment or one meeting with a financial advisor and just see where you're at. It can be really scary to think, okay, I don't know what they're going to ask me. What should I already know? And the thing is, when you go in and you meet with somebody, it doesn't matter what knowledge you have or anything. They're going to start where you are, hopefully. And that's what's important, is just taking that one step. So give yourself some grace and don't feel like you need to know everything right now. And you don't need to know everything ever. It's about, being simple and just the little steps that make the difference.
History shows that while market cycles feels unique, patterns often repeat. Why is the idea of this time is different such a common trap for investors, and what's your advice for avoiding it?
Yes, this time is different. We've heard that one a lot. Hey, it seems whatever end of the world apocalypse of the day, it's this time it's different. And we've seen through history, and I've seen with my clients as we've gone through every time it's no, but this one's different. But maybe the scenario's different. But when it comes down to it, if you forward 2-3 years down the road, you'll be like, oh, okay, it really wasn't that different. It's about staying on your plan and your journey financially. So don't think I'm going to react to every single thing that happens in the market or on the news. Instead, focus on what's my financial plan? What are my goals? And use that to stay on track. And the stock market or investing sometimes can feel like a roller coaster. You're riding along, you feel great, and then 2020 happens or 2022 happens and we have this drop and you're kind of, oh my gosh, I don't know if I can keep doing this. And what happens? It comes back up again and you're back on to the next one. So if you can just realize, yes, it is a roller coaster, but overall you have that long-term growth. Historically, we've seen that's the most important thing. And that's what's going to make you wealthy.
In today's fast-paced world, financial news can be overwhelming, leading to impulsive decisions. How can women effectively filter out market noise and resist the urge to act on hot stock tips or short-term fluctuations?
Yes, that it can be really easy to get looped into, especially the noise of the market and the noise of the news. And if you hear your colleagues have a stock tip of, whatever the latest and greatest thing is, are you investing in this? How can you not be investing in this? And I hear this sometimes from clients and I say, usually when you're hearing about it, it's too late anyways. And we're not looking to invest in, hot stock tips. That's not what we're looking for. And that's not what's going to make you money. And especially as women, we're wired to actually be looking at risks and how they affect us and our overall life versus, okay, I'm going to buy this stock because so-and-so said so, and I'm going to make a killing. That's not what I found. I found most women, it's, should I be doing this? Because I don't really feel comfortable with it, but if I should, I will. And that's where I have that conversation and say, you want to do what you're comfortable with. And if you look at really high risk and you go, I could actually lose everything. Most women I've met with don't want to take that kind of risk. And you don't need to take that kind of risk to be wealthy and have a good financial life overall. So my recommendation is if you can just ignore the noise and just step back and don't even think about it, because ideally you're invested long-term and the day-to-day things that are going on, even year to year, like they're not going to make a big difference overall. So just stay the course.
Drama-free finances extend beyond just investing. Its holistic approach to managing money. Beyond investment strategies, what are some other key habits or areas of focus that contribute to creating truly drama-free finances in a woman's life?
Yeah, I would say that is a big point, is that it's not just about the finances or the investments. That's actually such a small picture when we look at financial planning in a whole. I always say, what happens when life happens? Because we know that things happen that we didn't plan for. That's how everything always goes. Murphy's Law. And that's where I say, make sure you have a will, make sure you have the proper estate documents. I nag my clients on this every year. And, it's the last thing you want to do is think about your estate documents because you're looking at your own mortality, but you're doing such a loving thing for the people you're leaving behind eventually and taking care of those things. Same with certain insurances. Insurances, people just, roll eyes glaze over and they're like, insurance. But I've seen cases where, having the proper life insurance or critical illness, disability those things actually, if they fit into your financial plan, can actually save you huge. So if you have this great financial plan and you have your money growing and all of that, but then something happens and you have a barb come into your life and, it pretty much turns your life upside down, now you actually have all these other things that are going to help you through that. So planning for the circumstances we can't plan on is also a huge part of drama-free finances. So the whole picture rather than just the investments.
Yes. We want to thank you for our viewers. And there's such a comment here from Olga Vasina. Great to see PhD back. Welcome, Jimmy. Thank you so much, Olga. And for our Patrick, IPO Vids in Patrick's opinion, with hope, love, and solidarity, we welcome you as presenter of PhD Engineer. You are a great example of BF's new generation of brilliant prodigies. Thank you so much, Patrick, for your support. And Jane, tonight hits different, really feeling Beata's absence. She was such a part of this journey. This one is for her and family. Thank you so much, Jane. And from Olga Vasina again, Beata Young, our inspiration, our guiding light. We love you and miss you. Thank you, Jimmy, for taking PhD forward. And welcome, Brooke, great to see you on our show. Thank you so much. And speaking of finance and investing, there is our man, Patrick Young, in IPO Vid's opinion. Couldn't agree more, Brooke. Yes, finance talks at you. We need a better dialogue, not dictatorship by advisor. And a question, following question. Brooke, great discussion. How does one factor in risk into drama-free finance? Presumably it's drama-free, but not purely plain vanilla approach to investing.
Yeah, no, that's a great question. And yes, it's not just plain vanilla approach to investing. It's rather than, one size fits all, it's looking directly, like I said, at your specific situation. It's looking at how our brains are wired, especially as women. We can be more emotional. And you think that's a bad thing. Oh, women are so emotional, but it's not. It's actually a strength. And women, we're wired to have that emotional side of things. And a lot of times because of that, we get so tired just emotionally from day-to-day things that finances kind of take a back seat. So with my Drama-Free Finances book that I have coming out that kind of explains the drama-free finances approach, it's looking at things like the foundation. So where did finance even start? What is actually the stock market? There's, you can say, what's the stock market? And again, eyes glaze over, but making it more interesting and looking at the stories of women I've put into this book and hearing actually how things have affected them and what they've gone through to find finances that are more drama-free. So I would say overall, if we can look at finances as more of just a way to take stress off of our plate, having your finances in order actually makes your life less stressful rather than, finances, I'm just add that to my plate of things to do. We can actually work with how our brain is wired and start, building those habits that are going to help us and take away that stress.
Thank you so much. With over 2 decades in the finance industry, you have a unique vantage point on evolving financial landscapes. What's one of the most significant shifts you observed in how women approach their money, for better or worse, during your career?
That's a great question. Yeah, I've noticed over the last, almost 2 decades is women they would come into, a client meeting, and a lot of the times they would just let their spouse talk. They're like, I don't even know where to start. So I'm just going to let him have the questions and the answers and run this meeting and just whatever he says goes. And it's kind of taken a back seat of just letting the man or the husband run it. And now it's more of that equal, partnership when it comes to finances. So yes, women, we have that mental load where we're carrying all of this stuff. And I don't think there's anything wrong with the husband or the spouse taking on more of the financial side of things. But as women, I've noticed we're starting to really step in and go, okay, this is my money too. I need to know that if anything happens or something's going on, that I'm not, head in the sand or anything like that. I've unfortunately heard of, or talked to people who actually, they didn't really pay attention to their finances. Some of them, even the breadwinners in the family, and they found out their husband was actually gambling, or another one was a husband was actually running a business and he was bankrupt, but he didn't tell her. And she didn't realize all her money, which she thought was being invested, was gone. So it's not about one person being better, knowing more than the other. It's just working as a partnership, and women making sure they now have a foundation of finance. It's really important, I think, to have at least some idea of how money works and how it's invested, because you don't want to be in something you're not comfortable with. Even if your partner or your spouse is okay with that, you might not be. So you need to have that crucial conversation and figure out as a team, what does that look like? And I think that has changed recently.
For someone aiming to be a good investor, what's a practical way to ensure their short-term savings are held in truly conservative, non-volatile holdings?
Yeah, that's always, if it's something that's short-term, it shouldn't be in the market. And short term nowadays actually used to be 1 year, but now it's more like that 3 to 5 year mark. So yeah, just don't invest anything that's short term into long term investments. Just put it into like a high interest savings account or something like that. I am, of course, not giving financial advice specifically to anyone because I don't know your specific situation. But yeah, rather than sitting in cash, which, as we know, everything continues to go up, the costs of groceries and bills and everything like that. So if your short-term money can at least be in an interest-bearing account, so you're making more than nothing, that's definitely going to help overall and get you to where you want to be.
Your role as an educator is vital in bridging the financial literacy gap. As you teach Investing 101 in Chinook College, what's one fundamental concept you always make sure your student grasp, and why is it so crucial for their financial journey?
Yeah, I love teaching Investing 101. It's always neat to see all the different students and where they're coming from and why they're in the class in the first place. And yeah, there's all different situations, but a lot of times women I find come in and they want to just get a foundation, and they realize, okay, it is more simple, but also all these things I haven't been asking my own advisor or I haven't been doing in my life. So I guess just creating that awareness is what I really like to do at Investing 101, knowing, fees, looking at the different types of accounts you can hold, the different types of risk. That's always a big thing as well. Looking at what are you actually comfortable and what actually is risk. That's a big thing too. I would say that's probably pretty high on the list of things I want to make sure people know when they leave my class, for sure.
As a mentor to newer female advisors, you're directly shaping the future of financial empowerment. What's the most rewarding aspect of empowering other women within the finance world through your mentorship?
Yeah, I actually looked up, I think, a stat I heard the other day, and it's been a while that it's been sitting in that the female financial advisors is still, and I think it's in North America, maybe the US, but it's around 27% of financial advisors are women. That are actually servicing over 50% of the population, which is mind-boggling to me. And so it still is a pretty male dominated industry. And being able to help other women and lift them up and help them continue to, you know, build up their practices and help them any way I can just makes me feel really good, because, you know, I had some mentorship when I was starting out as well. And women need that support because, again, the emotional part of it is we want to make sure we're doing a really good job. All the female advisors I know, they really care about their clients and they want to know, you know, that they're doing the best they can for them. It's not just about, oh, they made this much in their portfolio. It's about, oh, how are their kids? What happened? Oh, I heard their dog passed away. That's awful. I'm going to, you know, reach out and let them know I'm thinking about them. It's all those things. So I think the more female advisors, as we can hopefully get more up to that 50-50 split, is really going to be beneficial for everybody.
That's very nice. Well, another comment from IPOB Din Patrick Opinion. Terrific answer, Brooke. Thank you so much for sharing your pragmatic, common sense approach to helping deliver better investment for women everywhere. Thank you so much, Patrick. Balancing a demanding career with family life is a skill many aspire to master. As a working mom, how do you personally navigate balancing financial planning with enjoying those precious family moments and creating lasting memories?
Yes, being a working mom is harder than I ever imagined. And I always heard about it before I had a child and thought, yeah, okay, seems hard. But when you're in it, you realize it's a lot. You're trying to do everything all at once, it seems. And that idea of, I'm going to get this done right away. Me personally, I'm kind of that A-type personality where I want to get something done right away. I hear from a client, I want to get back to it right away. My daughter needs something. I'll get to her right away. And as a working mom, I've realized I need to step back and just kind of let things go as they go. And I'll get to things when I can. And yes, everything is important, but you know, we're only human and we got to conserve our own energy too. That's another thing I learned early on with my daughter when she was younger, is that, you know, we only have so much energy, and I can be in a martyr and say, oh, I did all of this and I'm a mom, but it only depletes me. And then I have less to give to my clients, to my daughter, to my husband. And really, I think as a working mom, give yourself grace, have compassion. It's a hard job being a mom and then working on top of that. So, you know, asking your partner or your spouse or family, friends to help out just so you can, you know, get things done rather than trying to do it all yourself. And, you know, none of us need to be, you know, a superwoman or anything like that. I think the more we are authentic and vulnerable with how hard it really is, we can actually have more compassion for other people and, more importantly, ourselves. And that's what's going to make us, you know, that better person professionally and also a better mother.
For anyone feeling lost or overwhelmed by their finances, a simple word of encouragement can make a world of difference. If you could offer just one piece of encouragement to a woman who feels completely in the dark about her finances, what would it be?
I would say it doesn't need to be complex. So just start. Just take one step, and yeah, you don't need to know everything. And it's that Dunning-Kruger effect, if you've heard of that, where it's, you know, the less you know about something, the more you think you actually know about something. Finances, the more you know, the more you realize you don't know. And even, you know, I've been in this industry for over 20 years and I'm still learning things I don't know. So as a woman going into this and doesn't really know a lot about finance, just start with the basics. That's honestly all that really matters. You know, pay yourself first. That's my number one rule. Put money towards your future. You're paying yourself. And as you start to see that money growing in your, you know, investment account or your retirement account, it starts out slow, but as that money starts to build and grow, eventually you're going to be like, oh, wow, it makes sense. I'm paying myself first and I see this. And you kind of just set it and forget it. And that's my number one. And don't start, in a year from now when your debt's paid off or anything like that. Try and start right away, because that's the number one regret I always hear from people is I wish I would have started sooner. So if that is you and you wish you would have started sooner, start today. Absolutely. Don't put it off for another day.
That's very true. Start today. What do you think also for the women who wants to start their career or female to help their career or start an entrepreneurial journey? What's your advice to them?
I would say to just, don't be hard on yourself. Know that it's going to be a journey of learning and falling on your face, and that's totally okay. That's what we all have to do. And if you can have the courage to just step out and make that change and just go out there, that's huge. That's a big thing. So rather than focusing on perfection, that's a thing I found was you're always focusing on perfection. You got to make sure this is perfect before I put it out there or I go out there with my business. Focus on just doing it, because that's how you're going to learn. So that would be my number one suggestion to women who are just starting out in their career or starting with a business is just put yourself out there, and that's going to build your confidence.
What are the top 3 soft skills all career-driven females, in your opinion, should have?
I would say adaptability, probably time management, and willingness to learn.
Okay, and we also have a question from our viewers. From Desiree Lumen. Hello, Brooke. Great to see you on the show. Do you have any tips to manage finances if we live paycheck to paycheck? Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Living paycheck to paycheck. It's definitely hard living paycheck to paycheck. And I understand that we've all been there, I think, starting out. And just looking at certain things, I guess, cutting certain expenses can always help. Or, when you look at your past monthly expenses, where was something that you could have tweaked a little bit? Or is there a way you can take on, a side gig to make a little bit more money, things like that. Also, there's a lot of ways to negotiate. So if you're paying a certain bill, like your phone bill or something like that, or your cable bill, they'll actually negotiate with you. So if you call, a lot of times you can get it down. So just little things like that, where you can start saving a little bit here and there. You'd be surprised how much you can save just by looking at those things. So hopefully that helps a little bit.
What about you? What about when it comes to problems? What's your problem solving strategy?
Yeah, I would say any problem I have, I always step back and I take the emotion out of it, because sometimes problems can feel very personal. Like, what did I do? Did I drop the ball? Did somebody else drop the ball? But instead of blaming someone, I always look at, okay, what's the problem we're trying to fix? What's the issue? And what are the options to fix this? And then we can, of course, make sure we learn, and going forward, how can we learn from this experience and change how we do things? And yeah, problem solving is just another way to look at building up those skills rather than feeling bad. And I remember earlier on in my career, anytime there was a problem, it was like fight or flight. Oh my gosh, what are we going to do? We got to get this fixed right away. But it's interesting how when you actually step back and look at it and take a breath, your brain actually is able to process and think of ways to fix the problem better than if you're in that fight or flight, panic mode.
None of us are able to achieve success without some help along the way. Is there a particular person who you are grateful towards who helped get you to where you are? Can you share a story about that?
Yeah, I'm really lucky to have an amazing dad who's helped me immensely by supporting me, my good days, but especially on my bad days, pumping me up when I felt like I just don't have any gas left in the tank. And he would just support me. And yeah, I remember this one time. Well, I should say wasn't one time. It was a really important part of my life when I decided to move my financial practice to another company umbrella. And I was so overwhelmed. There were so many things I needed to do in such a short period of time. And my dad said, and I'll never forget, he said, "You'll never regret making this change. Just trust your gut." And that really helped me to keep moving forward, even when I was, working those 12, 14 hours a day. And years later, he was right. I've never regretted making that change, even though it was terrifying at the time.
For women who are considering work with a financial advisor, what are the key qualities or questions they should look for to find the right person to guide them on their financial journey?
Yeah, so I would say number one is, are you comfortable with the person? Make sure that this is a person you want to see every year, because ideally you're going to have that annual update. And if you're like, oh, I have to go see them again, that's not going to be a good fit. So you want somebody who makes you feel heard and who listens to you and, looks into those core values we talked about earlier. What's important to you? That's what I want to look for, or would suggest you look for with a financial advisor. And then also looking at, their experience and their designations. That's really important. You don't want to, specifically depending on what your situation is and how advanced or simple it is, you want to look for the right fit that way too. So if you're just looking to invest and you don't really have any comprehensive planning needs, well, then you can look for an advisor who doesn't necessarily have, a whole bunch of designations. Usually the more experience, the more designations, you are paying for that type of service. So sometimes you don't necessarily need to be paying for that. If it's just a simple, okay, I need to set up a pre-authorized, monthly contribution or something like that. And then, ask the financial advisor, how many times a year are we meeting? When should I hear from you? Are you going to call me? Things like that. You want to make sure you know what to expect from them. And then lastly, what's their investing? What do they do when they look at investing? Are they just set on stocks? Are they set on mutual funds? All these things that you need to be aware of. Or are they set on selling a certain company's investments? You want to make sure that they're looking at what's important to you and investing in what's going to fit your goals and where you're going in your journey.
Speaking of financial goals, sometimes people lose motivation. What's your advice for staying committed to long-term financial plans, especially when life throws unexpected curveballs?
Yeah, I think losing your motivation, that definitely happens. Especially when hard things happen, you lose your job. You didn't get that promotion you were counting on. Your mortgage rate went up when you didn't expect it to. I think learning to be adaptable to those things and having those in your plan is really important. If you plan on, you're going to have a steady wage increase and your mortgage rate's always going to be the same, and, the market's going to continue to go up this amount every year, that's probably not going to go as planned. So if you can work with an advisor, or if you enjoy doing that yourself, and you want to set up a financial plan where, okay, what happens if the market goes down 20% in a year? What happens if my mortgage rate went up by 3%? What happens if I never make any more income than I'm making now? Or what happens if I lose my job for a year? There's ways that you can actually put those into scenarios and see how that's going to affect you. So it kind of takes gives you that peace of mind knowing if something happens that you didn't forecast, that there is a backup plan, there is a plan B.
Given the current global climate and all the drama in the world, what immediate value do you believe you can add to women's financial lives right now?
I think, yeah, looking at the whole, everything going on in the world today, we can look at all the negatives and feel really stressed out about everything going on. But the thing is, if you actually step back, there are a lot of good things going on in the world, and it's hard for us to focus on that. But I think and you probably heard this before, it's a little cliche, but it works, just that gratitude, making sure that you have, three things a day that you're thankful for, and focusing on that. And financially, oh my gosh, with everything going on, is this going to be the end of the world? Am I going to lose all my money? Is this going to be, the end of it as we know it? But I like to say, if things got really bad, I'm talking stock market no longer exists, which means companies no longer exist, which means banks no longer exist. If it were to get that bad, then yes, we need to learn, if you don't already, how to garden, how to get our own food, things like that. That's what's going to matter. So for things to get that bad, that's pretty unlikely, knock on wood. But yeah, everything can get blown out of proportion. And the news, especially, they're paid to have eyes on the news. So anything that's fear provoking, because that's what's going to bring the eyeballs, is fear. So you got to remember, when you're looking at the news or reading the news, they want to get that emotion out of you, because that's what's going to make you continue to watch. Versus, if it's just like, yeah, poverty's down, more people have clean water than ever, well, then you just kind of tune out and go back on your day. So I think looking at your own life and what's going on in your life, like I said, with the gratitude, that's really going to help you get out of that negative spiral if you're watching a lot of news or feel overwhelmed with social media.
When it comes to investing, there's often a fine line between being a good investor and a bad investor. Can you highlight one subtle but significant difference between the two that people often overlook?
Yeah, being a good investor over a bad investor would 100% be reaction. Good investors, whatever is going on, they just don't react. That's the best thing you can do when it comes to investing is, yeah, maybe you need to rebalance or something like that. You can talk to your advisor, or if you're doing your own, but don't react to whatever is going on. I find the people who have lost a large portion of their wealth or their investments were the people trying to take control of whatever scenario is going on in the world or in the stock market. Okay, so should I pull my money and get on the side right now because I don't know what's going to happen? Well, the problem with that is anytime you try to time the market, you're looking at not only getting out, but you also have to know when to get back in. So I've heard of, I've talked to people who they got out at the right time. Oh, perfect. I didn't go down 20% because I got out. But then now, a year later, the market's back up, it's on to new highs, and they still haven't gotten back in. So if they were, good investor, they just stayed the course and they didn't do anything. They let their emotions play out, but don't act on them. That's what makes all the difference.
For women who might be navigating complex family dynamics or relationships that impact their finances, what's your advice on setting boundaries or taking control of their financial well-being in those situations?
Yeah, and I think there is a lot of complex family dynamics, especially nowadays, especially with, split families or mixed families. Yeah, you do have to set those boundaries, and you do have to realize you got to take care of yourself and, of course, your children, but you can't let the other person take advantage of you if that's the case. You need to make sure that you're watching your own finances. If you're being really nice, which a lot of women I find, oh well, I didn't want to rock the boat or anything, so I kept our bank accounts joint even though we're now divorced or something like that. You got to do what's best for you. You got to cover yourself and make sure that you're taken care of. So yeah, I know you want to be the nice person, and you can do that in other ways, but when it comes to your finances, make sure if you're moving in with somebody or you're getting married and you have quite a bit of assets, make sure you have some type of contract or agreement where your assets are covered if something were to happen. And we don't ever plan on getting divorced. People say, well, I'm not getting divorced, so why would I have an agreement? Well, of course you wouldn't get married if you were planning on getting divorced. But usually I find when you cover these bases and you make sure that you're taken care of and you have those agreements in place, that's when you probably don't even need them. But for that small percentage of when you do, that's important.
You've seen many clients build wealth with clarity. What's common aha moment or breakthrough that your clients experience when they truly step into financial confidence?
I would say a lot of women, when they first start out, they can be very risk adverse, is what we've been told as women. We're very risk averse. But what I like to say is we're actually very risk aware. And I've noticed just working with women, they start out and it's not that they're not willing to take a risk. It's that they're wanting to make sure they make the right decision. So when they don't know what to do, sometimes they just freeze and they don't make any decision and it just gets put off. So with the women and men, of course, that I've been working with, if they continue to just, stay invested, they look at, okay, I feel more comfortable with seeing how the market goes up and down, and they continue to pay themselves first. It's, after a couple of years, they go, oh, wow, this actually is working. And oh yeah, I saw the market go down, but I knew it was going to come back up. And it's just so neat to see that confidence of them putting away money and seeing that they can actually grow their wealth when originally they were, they didn't start with a lot. They had some income, but they just didn't even know what to do. So they just kind of, put it under the carpet and just, okay, I don't know, I'll keep it in a checking account or my bank account with no money. And they are like, I'm so glad I started this. And I continue to, build it up and listen and learn.
Looking ahead, what's one big trend or shift you anticipate in the financial world that women should be aware of as they plan for their future?
Oh, that's a great question. I think probably focusing on, there's always going to be all types of investments. There's always going to be new investments that are going to come out and they're going to be exciting and they might be good. And there's nothing wrong with, I think, pivoting to different types of investments if it makes sense for you as the investor, but not also getting, roped into investing in things just because they're new and exciting. There's a lot of green energy and all of that, which is great. But we haven't really seen that and what it's going to look like. Same with AI. That's a big thing as well. And absolutely, we're going to see how it affects everything. And it could be great. But yeah, it'll be, I was going to say, like, just with all the new investments coming out and seeing this next, decade of how things are going to change, it's actually really exciting. So just being open to those things, but while also having like a bit of caution to make sure that, okay, does this make sense? Because you don't want to invest in just something because it's AI or because, it's green energy. You want to make sure that the investment makes sense as well for you. So I think that's really important for women to look at moving forward.
Let's go back to you, Brooke. Are you working on any new exciting projects right now?
I am actually. I'm currently in the process of finishing up my book, Drama Free Finances. Hopefully it'll be coming out or planned to be coming out early 2026 when everybody's done Christmas and now looking at, what we need to do financially for the new year.
Mhm.
So this book actually has been a project on my heart for quite a while. And one of my colleagues and good friends, she actually put out a book, and it really inspired me to finally write my book as well. And it's a guide to building up financial confidence for busy women and women who want to learn more about finances and simply just want to be part of the conversation. I always hear from women that, whoever was talking about this at the office and they had no idea what they were talking about, or they were at a dinner party and they were talking about some kind of financial lingo they didn't understand, and they want to be part of that conversation. So my book's going to help them decide if they want to be part of that, but at least know what they're talking about. And my book's going to guide them through the journey, building up their confidence and helping them decide what route they want to take personally for their own finances. And this will help them feel less alone, because I'm going to have a lot of stories in there that's going to help women realize, yes, you're special. Yes, you're unique, but a lot of women are going through the same things as you are, and you won't feel alone. And the best part of this, because I said it's for busy women, is it's a shorter book. I found a lot of finance books are, 250, 300 pages, which I know there's a lot of good stuff in there, but for busy women, that's a lot to read and a big commitment. So this book, women can read it while they're waiting in the doctor's office, or they're waiting for, their kid at soccer practice. And also there's going to be an audio version shortly after. And then if you're like me and you like to listen on the go, that'll be a choice for you too.
Good luck to that, Brooke. And
Thank you.
Eleanor Roosevelt once said, "Women are like tea bags. We don't know our true strength until we are in hot water." In life, how are you in hot water, Brooke? How are you brewing?
I love this quote. It's bang on. I didn't learn my strength until I was under fire, or as Eleanor said, in hot water. And my biggest challenge was to stop trying to impress people, people please. I know as women, we tend to do that. And I just spent so much time in my early career trying to be the perfect person to fit what everybody's expectations were, or, what I thought their expectations were. But I was missing out on, working with more people who wanted to work with me because they actually liked who I was and what I was doing. And I learned that people who want what I have to offer because they like who I am are who I want as clients. And yeah, there's going to be people who don't like me, and that's fine. And they don't want to work with me. That's all right. Because we all have that audience, as I like to say. We all have our audience that, they root for us and they want to learn from us. And there are people. And if we can look for those people, that's really important. So being authentic and trying to focus on being yourself rather than someone else. That would be my hot water scenario, or what I've learned from being in hot water.
What is the number one book you can sit and think, "Oh, I wish I read before I started my career"?
I would say Rising Strong by Brené Brown. Love Brené Brown, all her books, but Rising Strong for a career.
And let's imagine that you could meet anyone in the world for a private breakfast. Who would it be, and where would you choose to meet?
So my original thought is Michelle Obama or Brené Brown or something like that. But I actually want to meet someone who I think would really fill my bucket, who's Fortune Feimster. And if you're not aware of who she is, you're going to be in for a treat, because she is amazing. She actually has a few comedies out, or stand-up comedies on Netflix, and also has a podcast called The Handsome Pod. And she's just such a delightful person. She always makes me laugh. She's such an upbeat person, such great energy. And I want to be with someone, or meet with somebody for breakfast, who's going to give me that energy and just make me laugh, because laughing's great. If, it cures everything.
And for our last question, can you please give us your favorite life lesson quote?
So I really like the Viola Davis quote, which is, "All dreams are within reach. All you have to do is keep moving towards them. And as I alluded to earlier, just start, put one foot in front of the other, do the activities you see other successful people doing, and just keep going. I found that things never happen in the time you think they're going to happen. And it's always harder work than you think it's going to be. But that sure makes you appreciate, other people who have accomplished things. And it's a really great way to just be part of that.
And that's it from our 189 of the PhD live stream. Thank you so much to our guest, Brooke Dean. To stay updated and ensure you never miss a positivity hack delivered, follow Women on IT and turn on notifications to be alerted once a video has been released. Next week, we have Orly Label. Tune in next week for a new episode. As always, our positivity quote comes from our positive thinking only and goes look for something positive in each day, even if some days you look a little harder. Today is your day. Hack the future. Hack the positivity you want. Thank you so much, Brooke.
Thank you, Jamil. Thanks for having me. This was great.